Hello, everyone, and welcome to Victoria's Cantina. Today we're having a look at the Hasbro Star Wars First Order Snowspeeder with First Order Snowtrooper. Alright, you guys, so looking at the box here, you can see that it has the Force Awakens look to it with Kylo Ren there at the upper right, and then the figures, since Hasbro is packing in figures with all of their vehicles no matter what scale they are. And so you see the Snowtrooper packed in there on the side, and then a very nice action-oriented picture of two Snowtroopers inside of a First Order Snowspeeder. Taking a look there at the back of the box, you can see the vehicle is shown there along with the figure. Shows you kind of on the side some of the features that you can get with this particular vehicle. Here at the top it says, the First Order deploys these fast maneuverable gunboats for combat in sub-zero climates. All in all, very nice looking box. This is the absolute first vehicle I have purchased from the Force Awakens line, and the only one I'm planning on getting at this point. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get this item cranked out of the box. Alright, you guys, so having this out of the packaging, I gotta tell you, I wasn't really planning on picking this up initially, though I've kind of had my eye on it, from the beginning, because it does look pretty cool. It wasn't until I saw Steve Starwalker Cardon's review on this item, which, kind of pushed me toward getting it, and ultimately I did. If you haven't seen Steve's channel, he's one of my personal favorite YouTubers. Really love his Star Wars reviews. He's very upbeat, very cheerful, and he leaves you, with a very feel-good kind of feeling after watching him. So I'll put a link down at the bottom. If you haven't seen him before, definitely check him out because he is great. Alright, you guys, now let's go ahead and kick things off with a look at our Stormtrooper Officer. And it is very similar to the regular First Order Snowtrooper that we reviewed on the channel last week. If you haven't seen that yet, I will include a link down at the bottom. As with the other one, I am a very big fan of this figure because I think it just looks really, really good. Despite the fact that it is a simple 5-point of articulation figure, I think Hasbro really nailed the sculpt on this guy. And it does look very much like the 6-inch version of this character. And it's just sculpted and painted very, very nicely. Give you a close-up here of the helmet. Again, very, very nicely done. I think Hasbro really got this figure nailed down. Their sculpts have been really, really good with the 5-point of articulation, the Force Awakens figures. Of course, it would be nice to have a super articulated version of this as well. But for this being a pack-in figure that comes with the vehicle, I think it's quite nice that, they gave us something that, is exactly what it needs to be. And, it functions just fine in the vehicle. Aesthetically, it just looks really, really good. I'm really happy with the way that this sculpt turned out, and very similar to the previous one that we looked at, but there are some differences, and I'll give you a look at them both together. The Snowtrooper Officer shares some parts with the single-carded Snowtrooper. As far as I can tell, the helmets look to be the same. The arms also look like they could be the same. However, I think that the officer has arms that are a little bit more like spread open, especially the left arm there. It looks like it kind of just hangs further away from his body. The officer also has more of a spread out stance. You can see his legs are a little bit more separated, and you can see that there because of the gap there in the back of the camo, whereas this one, his legs are closer together. There's not a gap there at the camo, and as a result, this one is just a little bit taller. You'll also notice that the torsos are a little bit different. I do think that they are different sculpts. This one has his little controls there on his abdomen, which are sculpted a little bit more differently than these. These ones are a little bit more embossed, I guess, and painted differently, of course. And then the Arabesh writing there on his chest is larger than it is on this one. But very, very nice. They are similar enough to where you're not going to really notice those differences unless you're looking for them. And it's nice that we got both of these guys released so close together. In the way of articulation, our Snowtrooper Officer has a ball joint here at the head. He has swivels at both of the shoulders, and then swivels at both of the hips. And it almost gets to a 90-degree angle. It's not all the way, but it is pretty close. And he comes with the same blaster that the single-carded release had as well. And now as we turn our attention to the Snowspeeder vehicle itself, you can see that it is sculpted pretty nicely. There's a good bit of detail present, but not a whole lot of paint. In fact, I don't think there's any paint at all. It just seems like it's all, made up of parts that are cast in a certain kind of plastic. with the exception of a few little painted details here and there. From all angles, though, it is a very nice looking vehicle, although it is a little bit on the simplistic side compared to, vehicles we may have seen in years past. I think for the most part, it still looks pretty good. Now, there is some assembly required with this vehicle, but it's really nothing too drastic. Basically, once you get out of the box, you'll see there's a little railing right there. That's one of the pieces that you have to plug in. There's some little spots there for you to plug it in. There's also another railing back here that you have to insert. And then there's these headrests right here, which, are a separate piece, and you have to install those as well. Other thing you need to install is the gun, which, does come out pretty easily and can be used as a separate piece if you just wanted to have it by itself. And you could just have it being used by a snowtrooper, and it works as a pretty fun accessory like that. I do like the versatility there. The gun itself is made up of 3 different parts. You get the top part here, which basically plugs in there, and then you get the bottom part, which, plugs in there to the center piece there, and then you just push this into the vehicle to get it back in. And, it's very simplistic. I'm not sure how I feel about the white color. I think it is a little bit too bright. But this darker, gray color up here is, pretty nice. And overall, it's sculpted pretty decently. The projectile also goes pretty far. It has a pretty strong spring. Take this, rebel scum. Looking at the vehicle itself, like I said, it's very simple, but it does have a good amount of sculpted detail in it. You can see that there are some paneling and other elements to kind of give it some character. It could have been a lot better, though. It clearly could have been a lot better. They could have done more with the paint. But, at least it does have some metallic sort of elements. Like, this looks a little bit shiny, I guess. There's, like, some suitcases or luggage or something in here. And those have a metallic look to them. And it looks like they give them maybe a little bit of paint there. It also looks kind of like an oxygen tank or something in there. And then some other sort of barrel. You get your controls right here that the Snowtrooper uses to pilot the craft, and in here's on the floor, you'll see where you attach the gun. The seats are kind of like a bluish sort of color, and they look pretty good. Again, it's very simple, but I think they look all right. And I do find that the headrests get in the way, though, when you're trying to put your figure in there. It just, to me, would have made more design sense to have them kind of facing maybe toward the back or something, or even have them vertical. But, I'm sure Hasbro was just following Lucasfilm's design of this vehicle. I would really have liked to have seen a little more paint, though. All in all, it does look, decent. But, they could have given it some more paint. Maybe painted that black like it is in the box. Or, painted that black. Maybe a little bit of score marking on it. Just to give it a little more detail. I think that would have been great. But for what we got, it isn't all that bad. You will see that there is a landing gear piece down here, and you just push it up and pull it back down to have the vehicle land. I do find that it is a little bit on the flimsy side. Like, you can see it kind of has some give right there. But, you can also move it like back if you wanted to have your vehicle kind of more in like an upward sort of position. So, it is cool that it has the option to kind of do that. But there's no landing gear at the back. You're just going to have it sitting on these little posts that protrude from the engines right there. As far as getting the weapon back in, what you want to do is you'll see that there's that little notch in there, and you just kind of want to line up this with a notch, just like that. And it isn't the best of designs, but it seems to stay in pretty well. It doesn't fall out or anything. Now, you get your commander, and you can place him inside the vehicle. And you just want to have him holding on to his gun right there. Just like that. And then there is a little peg down there in the vehicle that you can see right there. But it doesn't really help a whole lot because like the figure doesn't really reach it. You see it's like kind of like his legs still kind of over it. You can kind of just force him in, but it's not really necessary to use it. It's kind of hard to get him to stay in it anyway. So you have your Snowtrooper Officer there, and it looks really good having him operating the launcher, but of course you need to get another Snowtrooper to actually drive this thing, so that's where the single carded release will come in handy. Really glad that Hasbro released a single carded one too, that way we can have him driving the craft. And to get him in, you will need to remove his backpack because it just won't fit in there with it on. Outstretch the arms. And like I said, it's not the best fit, but you know, you can kind of just wiggle it in and until it makes it. And I just think that this should have been designed a little bit differently up here for the headrest because it does make it difficult. Okay, now that he's in, we can get his hands there on the control. And just to note, it might be easier if you put your pilot in before you put the gunner in. There we go. So now we have both the driver and the gunner in there, and I think they look really cool piloting their Snowspeeder. Now there is still a seat back here, and I was really hoping that I could fit a third Snowtrooper in there, so you know, I ended up buying 2 of the individually carded releases, but unfortunately it just does not fit. If you try to get him in there, you're gonna see that there's just no room. The gunner is, you know, standing all the way back toward the seat, so there's just not going to be any way to get him in there, which, you know, is too bad. If they would have just moved him a little bit farther forward, you know, you would have been able to have gotten a third trooper in there, which I think would have been awesome. But, you know, I guess you can't have it all, and for the $30 price point, which, you know, this is priced at, more or less hits the spot. And I do like the gravity on this vehicle. Like when you have the figures in there, you can turn it all the way upside down, do the Dairy Queen Blizzard test, and you know, they stay put, you know, which is really good. I'm really a huge fan of that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. This is the Hasbro Star Wars The Force Awakens 3 3/4 inch scale First Order Snowspeeder with First Order Snowtrooper Officer figure. Overall, I gotta say, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this. I think it did pretty much hit the mark, though. It is a little bit on the pricey end, in my opinion, at $30, but it does go on sale now and then. I actually got mine off Amazon.com, which was price matching Toys R Us, who had them for 20% off. So I got mine for $25, which I think, you know, feels a little bit better on the wallet. For what it is, it really isn't too bad. The figure is very nice. It's sculpted very nicely. It's painted very nicely, and functions just fine with the Snowspeeder. The Snowspeeder itself, you know, is sculpted pretty nicely. Could have used a little bit more detail. They could have sculpted a little bit more stuff for us to see into it. They could have painted it a lot better. Seems to function quite well. The landing gear works. The launching cannon works well, and it's pretty cool that you can pull it out and use it as a separate accessory. My biggest wish for this thing is that I could have been able to fit 3 troopers in it, and it could have very easily been done if they just would have moved this cannon, you know, closer to the front. But, you know, it is what it is. I think it looks really good, especially when you have your 2 figures in there. I really do like this vehicle. This is the only vehicle I have picked up from the Star Wars The Force Awakens toy line. And for the time being, I think it is going to stay that way. As such, if you're collecting the Force Awakens vehicles, I think that this is a really good one to get. Even if you're not, I do like this one. I really like anything where you can use multiple troopers. And, you know, as such, this does function in that regard pretty well. So on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, I'm going to give this 3 stars. It's pretty good. It's not great, and it could have been a lot better. But I do find myself enjoying it quite a bit nonetheless. Alright, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, then I do encourage you to please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this vehicle down in the comments, whether or not you're planning on picking one up. Be sure to check me out on Twitter, and as always, I want to thank you for watching Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, bye-bye.